Welcome back to the M&M podcast. We have got a good one today. We are going to talk about the best songs that are way too long. And we got the perfect man to talk about it with. Alex, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing great today, Mitch. How are you doing?
Good, good. So we will run down some of our favorite songs that are way too long. And our criteria is 7+ minutes, or at least very close to that.
Mhm.
So you got the classics, of course, like Hotel California, Stairway to Heaven, but we'll also talk about some that may not be as well known. And we'll discuss some songs that are actually too long, that should be shortened and are affected because of the length of the song. So maybe we could just quickly go into some of our favorites, Alex. What's one or two of your favorite songs that are way too long?
Yeah, some of them, my favorite ones. I have one that's probably my favorite song right now. It's just stuck on a loop in my head, and as I drive, it's just constantly in the car. It's a Witchy Woman extended intro, and
Mm-hmm.
I found it so great because when I first listened to the song, I had no idea what it was, and I just actually my dad played it for me, and he's like, "Guess the song." I'm like, "No idea." Like 3.5 minute guitar solo intro, just slowly building up. And Mitch, as an Eagles fan, I thought you knew about it, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I had to show it to you. So that's why I sent it
Yeah.
over to you as soon as I could.
Yeah, I checked it out. It was awesome. I mean, it's obviously like a lot of instrumental. Like that's why songs get that long.
Mm.
In terms of like vocals, the song can only be 3 or 4 minutes, really. And then it's
We'll get
just
into that though. I
yeah. And
about too
then
long vocals. So
yeah, and then the rest is kind of fill in music and just kind of riffs and that. But yeah, that's just a great song, one of their best from their first album. And then seeing it just like expanded in concert, and that's kind of what concerts are for, right? Is on the one hand, you want bands to sound great and sound similar to what the songs are, but you also like to see them improvise and almost take it to that next level, right? Like that's the beauty of live music.
mm,
And then speaking of Eagles, this is a classic one, and it's probably for some people they'd say, "Oh, it's overrated," blah blah blah, because it's very easy to call something overrated. But I do think Hotel California is one of my favorite songs that are too long, like 7+ minutes, because I don't think at any point it feels like it's too long. Like obviously we're tongue in cheek with the title and everything,
mm,
but it doesn't, like some songs to me are 7 minutes and I'm like, yeah, I believe it because there's some like dead periods in the song kind of.
mm.
Whereas with Hotel California, it's like a really great intro that like builds and builds and builds. Then you have like a 2.5, 3 minute like good song that has like a lot of deeper meanings about like Los Angeles, Hollywood, California, and just America in general, like greed and corruption and all sorts of stuff. Plus, it's open to interpretation, which I love. Like the different lines, people have different ideas about what they mean, right?
Mm.
And it means whatever you want it to. And I really like that when it comes to songs. So that's definitely one of my favorites and one of the ones people would think of immediately when you're talking about like 7+ minute songs.
Yeah, and you were saying like the whole it was like extended with like the music, but also Hotel California, you have a lot of verses, but it tells a story. And that's why you said it doesn't feel long because it actually has like a cohesive kind of story that they're trying to tell, and like a message, right? You said like a big message. Whereas some other songs we'll talk about today, just they just hit you over the head with the same vocals, like the same lyrics and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah,
yeah.
and we're gonna get to some songs that are actually too long, that we think would be better if they were shortened, and some of them may surprise you. They might anger you, but that's music. We all got different opinions. And then maybe Alex, maybe a long song that you really like that isn't one of those Stairway to Heaven, Hotel California, massively popular songs.
Yeah, I thought about that. One of my favorite ones, I think at the moment is this band. I mentioned them before, called the Giant Rooks. They're a band from Germany. They're called, yeah, it was called All I Know Is Quicksand. And I showed you Mitch this the other day. You said it wasn't really kind of your style. It was like the slow,
Wow.
again, it's like a slow build up of a song. But when I saw them live, because they played in Toronto last year, I saw them. And when they played it live, the singer just he kept going because the song like reached a huge point and then stopped. And then it was just an acoustic like verse to kind of like ramp him back up into like the outro. He spent a solid, I kid you not, like 4 minutes just acoustic, him the acoustic, and the band was kind of looking at each other and they're kind of like kind of getting that look. He was having his moment, but his moment was way too long. And even the recording though, the recording the song is like around 7:45, I think. But
Mhm.
live, they played for like, I want to say like 11 minutes song.
Wow.
It was long, and I'm like, I loved every moment of it, but then
Mhm.
not every moment. Near the end, I was like, okay, man, even the band's getting a little antsy. Let's go. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
Well,
But Mitch, what about you? What's the other favorite song that you don't have up here on your list here?
yeah. Well, I'll mention that, but first I just wanted to talk about like that live aspect because my dad mentioned this and I looked it up. Led Zeppelin, when they would perform Moby Dick,
Hmm.
it would be like 20 to 26 minutes long.
Damn, that's
Can you imagine? Like we're gonna get to the songs that are way too long. That's like just so out there. It doesn't even need to be mentioned how ridiculous that is. And like I know you love Led Zeppelin. I like
mhm.
Led Zeppelin a lot, but there's no way 20 to 26 minutes for one song would be fun.
It's
Like
honestly, yeah, it's probably a bathroom break for the rest of the band because it's a drum song, right? It's 100%. So,
because like you can only come up with so many little like one up, one up, one up, like as you're kind of going through every member gets a
mm,
solo or whatever. And that would just that would be frustrating. I feel like if you're at a live show. I mean it's Led Zeppelin, so it'd be cool, but
mm,
I just don't see how that'd be great. I have to look up a live performance in fairness, but I mean
mhm.
20 to 26 minutes, that's like classical music or something. Not even
Yeah.
like it's just like a whole orchestra of music for a really long time with no break and no change.
And it's like
That's
taking
crazy.
away from other songs you can play at the concert. Because if the concert's like 2 hours long, and a quarter of that is just Moby Dick, I'm like, you could have played like
Exactly.
four other amazing songs that I came to listen to, right? So,
Exactly.
mm,
Like most concerts, like would probably be like 2 hours. Even if they did like a long one, like 3 hours, even still, that's 1/6 of the concert almost being taken up by one song. And they had
yeah.
a lot of great songs, obviously, like hits as well as deep cuts. So that would honestly kind of annoy me if I
Mhm.
was there live. But I'd also love to have been able to go to a Zeppelin concert, so I
Mhm.
can't be too upset about it.
We'll
So
go see Greta, Mitch. Greta
yeah,
Van Fleet's the closest you'll get. So,
yeah. And they're kind of moving away a little bit from the Zeppelin sound, which I
mhm,
appreciate, but they still have definitely like their vocalist still sounds like Robert Plant and
mhm.
they still have that kind of vibe. But to go back to the original point, which was just sort of like maybe a lesser known really long song that I love would be I'm the Resurrection by the Stone Roses.
Mhm.
And it's not typically what I would like necessarily from a song, but it's basically a 4 minute song and then it's almost like there's like a beat like in a hip hop song sometimes you get like a beat switch where the beat changes and then the production changes and everything sounds different. That's kind of what this song is, but obviously it's like rock, like indie.
Mhm.
And so it almost sounds like you mentioned it when I showed it to you, it almost sounds like it's a different song
I
during the back half
completely
of it.
thought I was doing something else. Sorry to interrupt. I was looking down at my phone. I was like, so I was doing something, and then I heard the switch, and I was like, "What the?" I looked at my phone. Yeah, it was just the same song. I'm like, "Hey, this is
Yeah,
interesting." But
because it basically the song ends and then they just start jamming for like 3.5 minutes,
mm,
but it sounds awesome. Like it's very cohesive. It's not just like guys noodling around on their instruments and whatever happens happens. Like they clearly had worked on it.
mm,
You know what it felt like? They had made a song, couldn't come up with the lyrics, but they loved the music they made,
mm.
so they like added it to I'm the Resurrection and it still works and it just sounded awesome in itself, like almost just like as a medley, like no lyric song,
It's like the cutting room floor. They just stitch it together and put it there. I like that.
for
Mhm.
sure. So yeah, I mean we obviously mentioned a couple favorite. I mean there's the obvious ones like Free Bird. I know one that we both like that might it's popular definitely, but maybe for younger people might not be as familiar is Life's Been Good by Joe Walsh.
Mhm.
We both came up with a list and we both actually ended up that was one of the only ones we both put down as some of our favorites. And I know for me I love the introduction of the song and kind of when it goes to the acoustic guitar even like da 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 da
Mhm.
da like that. But what do you like about the song?
The verse is honestly the bass, the walk
Mhm.
up, dum 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 dum. I had like that,
Yeah,
just
for
when it goes
sure.
down like that. Bass is so underrated in a lot of songs, and that one just stood out to me because it thundered through the verses, and I was like, oh, this is, and I like that kind of funky aspect of
Mhm.
songs, as you know, I like that. So,
for sure.
That'd be my favorite part of the song.
Yeah, and that's like Joe Walsh. Like I love Joe Walsh. I think he's an underrated musician. Because he had kind of the perfect musician's career in a sense where he was in the James Gang, which was like a cool band, but like not super popular. Like they were popular, but not like
Mhm.
mainstream crazy popular. He had a solo career, which was decently successful. And then he
Mhm.
was in one of the biggest bands of all time, the Eagles.
Yeah.
So he was kind of able to do everything as a musician, be in the cool, not as known band, solo career, and be in a massive band. But and that, I think that's probably his best song, I would
Life's been
say,
good for him,
at
man.
least of the hits. Yeah. But now we're gonna get a little bit negative. We're gonna talk about songs that are actually too long, not songs we love that are too long, songs that are actually too long, and we're hurt because in the studio they just said keep recording, as opposed to cutting it at some point. So I'll go with start. We'll start with you, Alex. What's a song you think is actually too long?
Yeah, I think these songs, I have two of them here. They were made longer because if you were in like a bar or a club or whatever back in the day, it was like you just wanted to keep it going, keep people going, and it was party songs. So "Message in a Bottle" by the Police and
Mhm.
"Rock and Roll All Night" by Kiss. And the reason I say this is because they're not necessarily like the 7-minute songs, but they both didn't write a third verse and they kept singing the same thing again and again, the same line over and over again. And I don't
Mhm.
think I need to mention them,
Yeah.
but it was at the like "Message in a Bottle." Yeah, it just was like another minute and a half longer than it needed to be because we're just ramping up the outro and you just hear the same line over and over again. "Send me down an
Mhm.
SOS," like the whole thing. And
Yeah.
whoop, put that out there. And yeah, that's in "Rock and Roll All Night." Like they
Mhm.
just were unnecessarily long. And whenever I listened to them, like my first exposure to those songs was Guitar Hero as a kid.
Mhm.
And I was sitting there just like, okay, especially if it's a
Yeah.
hard part and then just keep going and going again. It
And
was
you're like,
tough, but it was
mhm.
just too much. And I don't know if you found that with those, Mitch. I don't know how you
Yeah,
feel
I'm
about
not
that.
as familiar with those songs, but I do know them. And I think that's sort of a theme for songs that are too long is the repetition. And I
Mhm.
have one that's probably gonna make some people mad. And let me preface this by saying this is my favorite band, and I still love the song. I just think it's unnecessarily long, too long. And I'm going to go with "Hey Jude" by the Beatles because, like you just mentioned about "Message in a Bottle," just the last couple minutes is just like the same thing over and over again with like different volumes and like one part where like John Lennon's like screaming and then sort of
Yeah.
like it's just repetitive. It's a legendary song. It's a great song. I like it. Beatles are my favorite band. I just think you could have cut it after like a couple of those repetitions as opposed to just on and on and on for like 3 minutes, you
Yeah,
know?
I forget. I think well Bennett told me about this previous guest on this podcast,
Mhm.
and he was saying I think it was 17 or 18 times they said the outro line, the na 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 na
Mhm.
na, like that was 17 times, and I was
Yeah.
like, I think these songs we mentioned "Message in a Bottle," "Rock and Roll All Night," and "Hey Jude," they are good live songs
Mhm. Oh
because that
yeah,
ramps up the crowd, like
for
the repetitive
sure.
at the end for sure.
And like Hey Jude is played at like a lot of like English football matches, like as like the entrance song or the after the game song.
Mhm.
And it's awesome because everyone's like chanting it and like singing it together. It's like "We Will Rock You" or something, right? Like it's awesome live. It's awesome when you have all those people, but just judging the song from a listening to the record like at home in your car or whatever, it's a bit repetitive. And
Yeah,
then one like another one that's way too long and like people who are familiar with the band will know this, but like on Oasis's third album, "Be Here Now," and like you can ask Bennett about this, it was when they were at the peak of peak, like top of the mountain, because they just had their first two albums come out, which were huge and like critically acclaimed, and
Mhm.
they were on so much coke. And like Noel was basically, he was so arrogant, he was basically trying to do as much as possible to see what he could get away with recording wise. So a ton of their songs are like over 6 minutes on that album when they have no business being that long. They've got like helicopter sounds, they've got like all this extra stuff. Like they got lost in the sauce as a band.
Mhm.
And one song in particular, it's actually the longest song in UK history to ever go number one.
Okay.
and that's All Around the World. And it's a pretty good song. Like it's a good song, but again, it's like over 7 minutes long, like longer than Bohemian Rhapsody.
Jeez.
When I would say that song should be 3 minutes, like a crisp 3 minutes, in my opinion, because it doesn't even have really that Hey Jude element or like Message in a Bottle, where there's that repetition of like things people could sing along to in a stadium or in an arena, like at a live show or something. It's just like disjointed aspects at the end, weird, like it just didn't come together. So that's one that I definitely think if they had cut it at like 3 or 3.5 minutes, it would have been a really good song. But if you listen to, you'd never listen to the whole thing. Like I have it in a playlist. I never listen to the whole thing because the last
So you're
couple
halfway
minutes
through,
is
like,
just
yeah, let's
terrible.
just go next one. Skip it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so there's obviously a couple good ones. Is there anyone others in particular? I think we covered them. There's obviously lots of songs that could be shorter. There's songs that shouldn't even exist because they are very good, but maybe we can get to that at a different episode. But let's just quickly do a little buy low, sell high. So for buy low, you just think of a song that maybe is not as well known that you really like and think more people should know about. And then a sell high, so a song that's super popular that you don't particularly love.
Hmm. I think uh, one that I sat on for a while. I was telling people about it too. I think I mentioned it earlier. Was "Sweet Emotion" by the Kooks.
Hmm.
I didn't actually I played on our live last time. That was the one. That's the one I think it's a popular. It's not a very popular song,
Yeah.
but I just think that deserves so much more fame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
For
that'd be my
sure.
buy low.
Buy low. And then a sell high. This one might be more controversial.
Sell high, a song that's like super popular, but I think it shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, not
I
that
think
it shouldn't be, maybe just like it's not as good as people think, like you don't like it as much as people think.
yeah, I think "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran. I have to say
Okay.
that that one blew up. It's a good song. Don't get me wrong. Maybe it was just overplayed in my opinion, but I think he has other love songs that are better than that one. Like the
Mm-hmm.
song "How Would You Feel" on the same album.
Yeah.
It's like I think the next track on it, I find that way better than that "Perfect" song. Because that song just was an EP. It blew up, and not as rip on Ed Sheeran. I love Ed Sheeran, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
For me, I would say a buy low. I already mentioned it. It would be I'm the Resurrection, like because it's not even one of the Stone Roses aren't that popular outside of the UK, and even
Mhm.
I'm the Resurrection isn't like their most popular song. So I would say that. I'm trying to think. Some of the other ones are all quite well known.
Mhm.
I do want to mention Purple Rain though. That's another great
Yeah.
a great long song, and I don't think that one's too long, even though there is a lot of music and like guitar in that. I just think it's one of those things where it just all comes together well, and it's like one of those songs that is a well executed 7+ minute song. Um, and then in terms of maybe one that I don't like as much, and it's not that I don't like the song, but I would, and I'm not sure if it even fits the criteria totally, but I would go with Sweet Home Alabama by Leonard
Okay.
Skinner. I like
Mhm.
the song for sure. I like Leonard Skinner,
Mhm.
but compared to like a bunch of other songs they have, even from like that album, or I forget if it's the next album, but
"Simple
like
Man" my favorite.
Tuesday's Gone, Simple Man,
Tuesday's
Free
gone.
Bird, but Sweet Home Alabama, I think is their most popular song, even though like to me it's not even close to as good as those other three.
Mhm.
So I guess that would be one that I would kind of sell high as like a really, really popular song that I don't quite love as much,
I,
you
I
know?
agree with you on that one. I think out of those four you mentioned by Leonard Skinner, they yeah, "See Home Alabama" would be the lowest, and that's maybe because I heard it so much. Like it's hard to tell
Mm-hmm.
because like it's a great song,
Mm-hmm.
but I just find the other ones they're
Yeah.
more memorable. You know.
Yeah, more memorable, more meaningful, I think. And
Mhm.
like Freebird with the guitar is awesome. Even the verse
Mhm.
is underrated. And
Yeah.
then Tuesday's Gone, beautiful song. Simple Man is like pretty much everyone can relate to that song to some
Mhm.
extent. So yeah, it's not that I don't like Sweet Home Alabama, and we both like Skinner,
Oh yeah.
but it's more just that like that one's the pinnacle, and I just feel like I'd sell that one and then focus more on the other three. All right, now the exciting part. We are going to have a little draft. We're going to go 3 songs each. I'll give you the first pick. Best song that is way too long. So best 7+ minute song. You have the first pick.
Best 7+ song. I have to say "Witchy Woman." Extended intro. I have to say it.
Extended.
It's in my head, man. I
Okay.
can't get it out.
No, that's fine. It's good. It's good to get some songs that aren't like the obvious ones. Um, hmm. I'm gonna go a little off the board. Actually, I might save that one. I'm gonna go chalk. I'm gonna go Hotel California.
Mm,
I will. And people will
okay.
say it's overrated, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It's a great song.
And
Great guitar
then,
solo.
because we're talking about it, I'd say Freebird then.
Freebird. Yeah,
Freebird.
that's a great one. Iconic guitar
Which,
solo. That one's really been exploding like on TikTok and stuff.
Oh,
That
I've
song.
definitely seen that around now. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
For my second pick, I will go um Champagne Supernova by Oasis. I love that
That
one.
would have been my third one. Damn it, Mitch.
There you go. Now you got your third pick. This is an interesting it's an interesting lineup so far. But what do you got for the third pick?
One of my favorites, just because you're talking about, I said one of my favorites earlier. Not in terms of popularity, but I say All I Know Is Quicksand.
Okay, so yeah,
The
that one
Giant
you
Rooks.
saw that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna off
That's
the
good.
board there, so you don't steal my pick. There you go.
Yeah. No, that's a good one. It's better when it's personal. We could easily have just gone like Stairway to Heaven, blah blah. Yeah, and I did with Hotel California, but like we could have just gone Bohemian Rhapsody, Stairway to Heaven. Like they
I
are
kept those
great.
off my list.
But
Those
we want
are
to kind of try to
yeah.
a little bit different, like something that's a little more personal that we enjoy. For my third pick, I'm going to go way off the board, and I'm going to go Scenes from an Italian Restaurant by Billy Joel. That's
completely different.
yeah, and that's from his I forget what the album is called, but it's the one where he's sitting with like a mask next to him, and there's so many great songs on that album, like Vienna,
Yeah, that's a good one.
just
Yeah.
just a whole bunch. But yeah, I feel like it's a fun topic because obviously, and it go because most songs are like 3 minutes, right? So those 7+ minute songs, it's interesting to see what made them successful. And then also we kind of identified maybe why some of them are too long and don't work as well. And it is kind of that repetition aspect. But I think we covered it all, unless there's anything you wanted to mention.
I was just gonna say that I find that a lot of like rock, they tend to go longer too. I'm trying to think of other genres that do that too, but
There are some hip hop songs I know of. Like there's a few Drake songs I like that are longer. A couple of Jay-Z songs. But with hip hop, it's more difficult because it's so much about like cadence and wordplay, and like you're constantly like speaking, right? Like rapping.
It does be
So for
hard for like
7 minutes, like that's crazy. Like hip hop song is more like 3 to 4, and that's like great because they don't have like a guitar solo. Like that's why the songs are so long, right? It's usually because of guitar solos, which obviously you don't really have that in hip hop. But there's a couple definitely by Drake, like Pound Cake comes to mind. It's usually because the production, they do something unique with that.
And it's not as marketable for like a 9 minute song.
Definitely.
For like Runaway by Kanye. That's the one
Yeah,
I think of like for like
that's
a long
a
hip hop song. Yeah.
perfect example. And that's kind of what I was saying, where like those long hip hop songs is usually because it has like a really unique, like creative production to the song, where there's like a super long intro, a break, something. And that's how it kind of works. But yeah, you're right. It's usually more raw because it's easier to just kind of do guitar solos for a couple minutes. But that doesn't mean it's good or that it's easy. It's just it's like it's not really realistic for most hip hop artists. But yeah, that was a great point. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe, like, comment, reach out to us on our social medias at Podcast M&M on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.